Hello, everybody. My name is Graham Elwood, and you are watching The Political Vigilante. I'm here with the host of Get Your News On with Ron Placone. Ron, I wanted to talk to you about this because one of the things we both talk about is student debt forgiveness. And Joe Biden, by executive order, could just do it. Trump could have done it. Obama could have done it. Just executive order could just, because 85% of student debt are federally backed loans. And the federal government could just say, you don't have to repay them. And they could just do student debt forgiveness. Well, typical of the dumb, incremental centrist Democrats is they offer this thing that's not the thing everybody wants, but they pat themselves on the back. You're just delaying. You don't have to make payments on your student debt. Yay, we did it. And it's like you're so full of it. Like that's not what we're asking for. And I'm watching some of the protests, and I think you even just had one of these protesters on your show.
I had a Feeney on my show. Yeah, I mean, it was amazing. I mean, they pulled off an amazing event. It was the Debt Collective, and Feeney was involved in the planning of that as well. And there were some incredible speeches. And yeah, they pushed it to August now, which okay. I mean that's something that's cool. But it's like, look, the writing's on the wall. It's been 2 years and counting, and guess what? The world's still a spinning. Like canceling student loan debt, it would lift so many people. Like I don't even know how many people. Like so generations of people. Because you're talking everything from like the tail end of Gen X to millennials to Gen Z. I mean, it's like you're lifting these people off of these burdens that were made in a predatory nature. Student loan debt, it's not like it's like a fair exchange. This was a predatory exchange that should have never been legal, that was meant to prey on people and entertains the idea that education is something reserved for the elite, which is, by the way, one of the tools of fascism. So it's morally disgusting. And economically, it does absolutely nothing. There's a handful of plutocrats that are getting rich from this stuff. If student loan debt was canceled tomorrow, they would just shrug and go, well, I guess that's one less yacht this year. But burdens, like generations of people, the burden will be lifted up. It makes sense from every standpoint imaginable. And these people, I paid mine off, blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, what was the world like when you paid yours off? What, that was when college was like $700 a semester or something like that. You had straw. I saw this one guy. He said this, but he's just like, I made a bunch of investments because I worked at a union job for 35 years. Yeah, you had that union job. The union job allowed you to then make those investments. You had every chance and you took advantage of it. That's great. But what if you didn't have that chance? What if you didn't have that chance to go to college debt free? What if you didn't have that chance for that union job? Like,
to add this to that equation, what was your rent back then? What was your mortgage back then? Like, I went to college. It was $8,000 a year to go to out of state college. $8,000 a year. My rent after college was, I don't know, my share of the rent was literally something like $250, $300 a month. Like, the most I ever paid in rent was I had like a $500 or $600 studio apartment. And I was like, whoa, this is nuts. That was my rent. Like, so student debt payment would have been nothing. Not only that, and to your point too, even just from a pure capitalist standpoint, right? Like, if you cancel all the student debt, you know how much money gets infused into the economy because now all these people have extra income to spend on stuff, even if you're just a pure capitalist. Like, I mean, you don't have this $300, $400, $500 a month payment hanging over your head. Maybe you can knock down some credit card debt and maybe you have some money to go buy some stuff, go on a trip, do something nice. You know what I mean? Invest, put money in a bank and invest it in something or something, which again, the bank can then take your investment money and loan it out and make interest. So it's just from a purely capitalist standpoint, it's good for the economy to do this. And what I'm hoping is that because again, like you have people my age, Gen Xers, I'm a Gen Xer who still have student loan debt, and all the way down to, kids just out of college.
Yeah.
And so what seems to be the case is people are waking up how awful Biden is. And it was like, Yeah, and it was the thing Ice Cube said. It was the thing you and I, all of us said,
Yeah.
like, okay, Trump's gone.
If
Now
only
what?
he gave us 40 years of clues what he was going to be like. If only he had given us 40 years of clues, maybe some people would have made a better decision in the primary.
I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know. It's like when he's on the Senate floor saying he would gut Social Security and never give Medicare and cut Medicare while he was signing the 94 crime bill. I just didn't know if those were clues enough, Ron. It was hard to see.
Maybe he's changed. Maybe it's going to be different this time. Yeah, I mean, it's just with a stroke of a pen. And you think about the past couple presidents, Obama. I mean, he didn't do a lot of executive orders, but he definitely wasn't super shy about them. He could have done it. Trump, I think signing his name is one of Trump's favorite things to do, and he wouldn't frickin' do it. Joe Biden, perfectly capable of signing his name as long as Jill's there to remind him, which isn't a problem. And none of them will do it. None of them will do it. Graham, are you all right?
Yeah, no, no, I was just doing that because I wanted you, I could tell you were on a hot rant, but I wanted to let me just show everybody. And here's another, like, what does Joe Biden think of the young people, who are it's primarily young people that are affected by this student debt right now. Not to mention, we said there's people in my generation, even older, who are still affected, but it's mainly young people. So here's what Joe Biden, if anyone's wondering, let me just show you what Joe Biden thinks of young people. And this came out during the primary.
The younger generation now tells me how tough things are. Give me a break. No. I have no empathy for it. Give me a break. No. I have no empathy for it. Give me a break.
So, I just want, that's, and that's the stuff you and I and everybody over here on the left was saying during the primary. This guy's bad. This guy's bad. And everybody jumped in the streets. Okay, great. I'm glad Trump's gone. He's just an overt fascist. And now we've got the soft, cuddly, dementia-laden fascism of Joe Biden.
Yeah, the more gentle fascism. And yeah, he is a fascist. I mean, that's not, I mean, people throw around that word so much that sometimes it loses its meaning. But when you really want to be accurate about it, like, that's literally what we're living under. Like, we're there. It's not like, oh, we're heading towards fascism. We're freaking there. And we've been there a long freaking time. It's just like, sometimes it's just more apparent than other times, but we are freaking there. And Joe Biden is literally a neo-fascist the same way Trump is, because the GOP is an overt neo-fascist platform where the Democratic platform is a bit neoliberal, which leads to neo-fascism 100% of the time and vice versa. And Joe Biden is the most extreme version of that. So he, as an individual, is a neo-fascist. Pete Buttigieg, as an individual, is a neo-fascist. His plan to completely privatize the roads, literally a neo-fascist thing. So it's like, and what do you call a ping pong volley between neo-fascism and neoliberalism? It's just fixed. It's rigged. And we're the fucking ball getting batted around in a ping pong volley that they don't want to frickin' end because they benefit from it. It's their frickin' gravy train. So it's like when people, we're heading toward, we're there.
We're there.
People are like, we got to stop fascism. How? Let me know. Yeah, a general strike stops fascism. You want to stop fascism? That's how. The people trying to unionize their Starbucks, that's how you stop fascism. The people who are trying to push us in an eco-socialism direction so we can stay on this planet, that's how you stop fascism. Not picking the nicer talking fascists. Fuck all the way off.
Well, do you think that even the vote any blue will do crowd is starting to wake up to how horrible the Democrats are? Because in Biden's first year, he signed more drilling permits on public lands than Trump did. That's a matter of fact. He could have canceled student debt, and they won't. Like we just said, they just won't. They'll just kick the can down the road. Their last stimulus plan, $1.5 trillion and all this emergency funding for the Ukraine, but no COVID relief money. And there's still people struggling. There's still people whose businesses have been wiped out, or they're just barely getting back. Anyone who worked in the tourism industry is just barely getting back. You and I do live shows. That industry is just barely coming back now after 2 years. And again, all these small business owners and you and I are small business owners. Some of us, I got an SBA loan or PPP. None of those are, I got a little bit forgiven, but most of it I got to pay back. Now the Wall Street people, they got all their loans forgiven.
Yeah.
So do you see, like, I hear some slightly encouraging thing. Dave Anthony tweeted out that, he's, and he lives in like a suburb of a bunch of neoliberal people. And his kid plays youth sports. And he tweeted out, like, even these people who were like super neoliberals are like furious with Biden, and they're talking about him the way they talked about Trump. Do you think, especially the young people who were like, cancel student debt, oh, just pay it back in August, and they're like, this ain't enough. This big announcement yesterday, they thought was going to quell these kids to go, yay, Democrats are fighting for us. That's what Nancy Pelosi said. And Liz Warren, who are both worth hundreds of millions of dollars, just told us. Do you think they're waking up enough to be like, no, cancel it, or we vote? Do you think they'll vote them out? Do you think they're going to wake up? Because that's where I'm like, I hope they wake up. But then I'm like, I don't know.
Maybe it's tough to say because we're not guaranteed that Joe Biden's going to run again in 24. Like, he kind of goes back and forth. He says he might, and then it's sort of like, well, is he or isn't he? Putting politics aside, I think it's just painfully obvious his faculties aren't quite there. But,
right.
This is the United States. That's never held us back before. So, like, who knows what's going to happen? I think that if he doesn't, I could see, if he does, I could picture people just be like, well, let's just stick with the incumbent because the Republicans are probably going to run Ron DeSantis or a Mussolini hologram or whatever they got going on, and so I could see that, but like, if he doesn't, I'd like to think that, even some of the more, centrist minded people, and I think some people that vote that way, that behave that way with their votes, they're not necessarily that way politically. They're just conditioned by the system that we have. You know what I mean? Like they're just conditioned where it's like, well, my choice is a Republican or a Democrat, so I'm going to vote for the Democrat because the Republican's a freaking fascist. But they're not necessarily like, oh, the Democratic platform's great. It really speaks to me. All the nothingness they stand for really just gets me wet. I don't think there's many people like that. There are some people out there where they're just like, yeah, I'm a capitalist because I have some money. And yeah, I don't give a shit about many people but me. I'm basically Ayn Rand, except I have some gay friends, so I don't like the Republicans. So like those people are literally by the book Democrats. They don't like when you point out the reality that in any other country, any other pseudo democratic experiment in the world, they'd be considered far right. They hate hearing that. They think they're not on the right because they seem reasonable compared to the Matt Gaetzes of the world. But it's like, no, he's just a theocratic lunatic. You're a right winger. You'd be considered right wing in Canada. You'd be considered right wing like pretty much anywhere else. There are people like that. I think there's not many of them. I really don't. I think most people, just want basic things like being able to go to a doctor, living wages, doing something about the climate, educational opportunities. I think most people, they want that, and they're seeing through the bullshit, and they're not going to take it anymore.
Yeah, I agree, and I want to believe that I don't know. I don't want to be too cynical, but I've lost a little faith that Americans are going to finally wake up. They're waking up on the labor issues, and we talked about that. All these union wins are big. Amazon getting a union, all these Starbucks getting unionizing, and I think in the next 3 years, every Starbucks is going to be unionized in America. Just about, like, you'll see it. It'll happen. But the way the pattern is, the Democrats are horrible, but then the Republicans put up, like you say, Mussolini's hologram, and then this someone that's literally to the right of Reagan comes in and goes, I'm just not as awful as the lesser of two evils thing.
Right.
And like even if Biden doesn't finish his first term, which I don't think he will, Kamala Harris has a horrible approval rating. People hate her, but you put her next to, David Duke's, cloak, whoever they're going to run, the Republicans are going to run.
That's what they're going to run his cloak.
They're going to run his cloak.
It's literally going to be like David Duke's cloak that could like talk, like it has a mustache.
It's going to be his pointed hood cloak.
And he's going to be like the slogan is just going to be, I'm not racist, but, and that's going to be like the 2024 candidate.
I'm not racist, but ... 2024.
Yeah. Just a smiling cloak.
Yeah. And they'll put his cloak against Kamala Harris, and everyone will go, well, I guess I got to vote for Kamala, and at least we'll have a first female president. And it's like, okay, you'll have a first female president that'll keep bombing people, that'll refund the police. I mean, Joe Biden said he's going to give more money to the police. It's unbelievable. All these people who marched in the streets 2 years ago for George Floyd some of them voted for a guy who said in the State of the Union speech, more money for cops.
Yeah.
He said that.
I mean,
we have no Green New Deal. We have the democratically controlled Congress and Senate gave Biden at the end of last year $778 billion for war. You know, he was given $3.1 million in donations from the defense industry for his 2020 campaign. Like, it's unreal that they keep falling for this, but they're so easily played. Every time somebody unifies and rallies and they're seeing through the bullshit of the Democratic Party, they get easily propagandized and fear. And, you know, Gen X liberals that watch too much goddamn West Wing will be like, you're helping the Republicans, Graham.
Yeah.
You know, like, so
that's
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, that's going to be there, but I think, I do think people are going to start demanding more in the primaries. I mean, it's like Kamala Harris is grossly unpopular. Well, why? Because people are doing a little more digging and they know what she's all about.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's like, and she is, you know, not the most personable of candidates. Like she is one of the, like when she talks, you're like, who told you this was a good thing for you? You're not, when you talk, it's not very, it's amazing how many politicians are kind of like that. Like it's like their personality is just like, huh, this is, someone told you this was a good idea, huh? Which donor told you should do this?
I mean, as awful as Clinton and Obama are, and we could go on and tell them about, those guys at least were personable, and that's what carried them, and people couldn't see through it. But like George W. Bush was personable, but I mean, some of these, they're not personable. I don't even know. And I think people are, I don't know. I'm reserving they're waking up. They're waking up the unions, which is great because unions directly affect my job, my work, my money. I'm going to unionize because I know how much a Starbucks, I'm making this drink that literally costs 14 cents and I'm charging this person $6 and I'm barely getting by. They see that math every day and they can figure that out. But the smoke and mirrors that the two parties and the corporate media, they're so sophisticated at it.
Well, I think it's like people are waking up. Will that translate electorally?
Right.
And that's the question. And it's very hard when you only have, you know, two choices. And I put two in quotes because really it's just Wall Street Team D and Wall Street Team R. So, and that's by design. So it's like, I mean, we really need a true system change. But the good news about that is that, I mean, that starts in your backyard. That starts at the grassroots, you know? So it's like, I think if we could really shake up the system, if something like ranked choice voting were to be a reality on a large level, on a national level, you know, that could really shake some things up and really start to move us in a better direction as a country. And that's at the end of the day what we need. Like, we can't accomplish the type of change we need under this system electorally. And it's just as simple as, look, you know, in more like representative parliamentary style systems, yeah, typically the socialists and the communists and the Greens, they don't hold a ton of seats, but they hold some of them, which means, you know, the more center left and centrist parties, they got to, quote unquote, reach across the aisle, but actually do it for real and get those people on board with the stuff they want to do. So what happens at the end of the day? Well, the center left is actually that center left. The left is actually the left. The center is actually the center. And the right is, you know, still freaking ridiculous, but not as psychotic and monstrous as what we have over here.
Right. Right. Well, Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. Like you say, the labor waking up is great. It's a great thing to watch. Folks, go to ronplacone.com to check out all of his upcoming tour dates on the East Coast in April and Canada. And then Ron and I will be in Portland, Seattle, and Vancouver, July 28th through 30. Seattle and Vancouver tour dates are already up at both of our websites, ronplacone.com and grahamelwood.com. So, and the cops are coming for me right now. So this
Cops
is
are coming. That's your ride, dude. You're out. You got to bounce.
So check that out. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching. We are still in our 9th month of demonetization from YouTube. So support what we're doing at patreon.com/GrahamElwood or rockfin.com/GrahamElwood, which is a blockchain cryptocurrency platform. It's free to sign up, and there's a premium level at $10 a month. And for that, you get everybody on the platform's premium content. Myself, Lee Camp, Ron Placone, Jimmy Dore, Whitney Webb, Kim Iverson, Abby Martin, and many, many others. You can also support what we're doing at Venmo at Graham-Elwood and go to grahamelwood.com. We have a PayPal button and a PO box. I also have crypto wallets, which are all in the show notes. Thanks for supporting what we do.